just start by saying free Edgar Steele, guys. Free Edgar Steele, because he's innocent. You can go to freeedgarsteele.com. You may or may not need these little dashes. Free-Edgar-Steele.com. Cyndi Steele, his wife. A lot of people will forget the devastation of having a family member taken away. So let's give Cyndi a warm, warm welcome.
Yeah, Cyndi.
You know, I want to start out and say thank you for having me, let me tell my story, but what I'm really here, the message I'm really here to give is that we need to not be fearful. And I'll tell you, when this started back on June 11th, 2010, that's exactly what the government wanted, was to scare me to death. We can't be. I hid out for 2 months because they initially told me that there were going to be 2 men out there waiting to run my mom and me off the road. And then after they arrested Ed, they freed me and they told me that they had the 2 men and I was safe. Going away, you know, skeptical, not believing that my husband would ever want to have me killed or dead. I really didn't know what was going on. Kept trying to find out. I knew I was being lied to. They lied to me from the first minute they showed up at my mom's door in Oregon. But I didn't know what the truth was. So that was on June 11th. And I'm trying to find out who the 2 men were because they told me that they had them in custody. They wouldn't tell me who they were. Of course, they also wouldn't tell me who the confidential source was, who was supposed to be the good guy that came forward to save my life. Then on June 15th, which was the day of my husband's hearing, I had about 4 hours to waste, and you know, I thank the Lord to this day, for whatever reason, He decided that I needed my oil changed on my car. So I pulled in, get my oil changed, and the guy comes in and first tells me I need my filter's dirty and I need the filter changed. No big deal, go ahead, change it. Next minute he comes back in and he says, Mrs. Steele, I need you to come with me. There's something wrong. And you know, at this point I'm going, okay, how much is this going to cost me? How much is it going, you know, what is wrong with my car? Are they going to be pulling my leg? And my husband isn't available for me to call to find out if it's something that really needs to be done on my car because he's sitting in jail. Well, little did I know that he was taking me under my car, turned me around, and a foot from my face was a pipe bomb, 12 to 18 inches long, about that big around. You know, and I'm going, well, the government told me I was safe. Well, this doesn't look like I'm safe. Well, as you can imagine, it went, you know, I was interrogated and the bomb squad showed up. They closed down the highway. It was big news in northern Idaho. After I was interrogated, I walked into the courthouse for my husband's hearing. U.S. Marshal comes in and he says, I'm sorry, but we're not going to provide you protection. I'm going, what? My husband's in jail, but there's a bomb on my car, and you don't know who did it, and you're not going to provide me protection? Well, you know, it just continued to get worse. That night, when they finally decided I could have my car back, and I asked, why didn't you warn me? Because the confidential source all of a sudden comes forward and it says, hey, I put the bomb on her car. Well, wait a minute. He came back. He was supposed to approach the FBI back on June 8th. He was supposed to come clean and tell them everything, but he didn't tell them. All right. So that's why the FBI claims that they didn't know. Several weeks later, we got an anonymous call claiming that Fairfax had told them, that's the guy that put the bomb on my car, or at least that's who the government says put the bomb on my car, claiming that Fairfax had told the government, and the government knew about it all the time and decided not to do anything about it. So that's number one, that why I say the government knew about the bomb. Well, at this point, they had 2 fabricated tapes that they said was what was going to prove that Ed wanted me dead. Well, I didn't get to hear them until the 21st. So I walk in and I'm listening to the first recording, which was taken back on June 9th, and all of a sudden, I hear the word bomb on this recording. I'm going, well, wait a minute. If these recordings are real, and Agent Saka, if you listened to this recording, why didn't you warn me about a bomb? I'm asking the same question again. This time, the excuse or the lie was he didn't hear it. Well, by trial time, I found out that this recording was listened to a total of 5 times by government officials by the morning of the 10th. So that was on the June 9th tape. It was made on, they listened to it 5 times by June 10th, and I'm going, you didn't hear it? You know, by this time, I didn't trust anybody. I hid out for 2 months. I didn't speak up. I stayed quiet. I'm trying to figure out, I'm trying to figure out who I can trust, if I'm safe. Last night, for all of you that were here, you heard the death threats that we had, including the one to me that said the FBI would love to see me dead. I'm going back to those. I had tried to put those back, and forget about them, but that was coming home. Because I'm realizing that the FBI knew all along about that bomb one way or the other. And I have to think about where I was going after I got my oil changed, and that was on federal property. I would have been in the parked, I would have been sitting with my car in a federal courthouse property. What was their plan? What was their real plan? All I know is I spoiled their plan by deciding to have my oil changed, and that's why I thank God every day, because I'm not sure I'd be standing here. I'd be in the same situation that my husband was, or is, I should say. Well, it was about that time, after I started putting everything else together, and we went to the FBI with my attorney. I had an attorney that stepped up. I thank him every day because he stepped up and he was protecting me pro bono. Not a lot of attorneys that were willing to step up and represent a man that was being demonized in the media. But we went into the FBI and we had this anonymous call that, the government knew about it. Presented it to him and said, hey, what's going on? Well, the gal turns around and the prosecutor, Tracy Wayland, turns around and she laughs. Well, I didn't think anything about that was funny. Whether it was a true tip or not, I didn't think it was funny. This was my life we were talking about. This is my husband's life we were talking about. And then she turns around and she says, well, you're being influenced by all those groups. And I looked at her and I'm going, excuse me? I'm not being influenced by anybody. All I want is the truth. And so far, from you and the agents, I have been nothing but lied to. So I was pretty scared, but I got to the point where I had enough, and I knew that I had to step up and I had to become the speaker that my husband had been for years. He's the speaker in the family. I'm out of my comfort zone. I don't pretend to be the speaker he was, but I know I have one thing on my side, and that is the truth, and the truth needs to be heard because the mass media certainly doesn't want the truth to be heard. Every time they talked about my husband, it was, oh, attorney for the Aryan nations, racist, anti-Semite, every slander that they possibly could. When it came to me trying to get my side and what I knew to be true out to the mass media, they wouldn't broadcast that. And they even told my attorney that they only print what the government hands them. I even told them about the scenario about the bomb, and every time they'd release bits and parts, but they would never let the public know that the FBI knew about the bomb. I guess they didn't see that as a problem. Now think about it. You know, if it's on my car, I'm not exactly sure when it went on my car because I don't believe their story. I can't believe anything they said. But at any point that bomb was on my car, I was putting other people in danger. Because if it would have gone off. Not that to this day, I don't know if it would have gone off. Why? Well, let's see. In my husband's trial, they put on 4 experts saying it was the most lethal bomb that they had ever found under a car. And I'm going, okay. The defense attorney that we had the misfortune to hire didn't put on any expert for the bomb, but the day after the jury came back with the conviction, Larry Fairfax's attorney presents a bomb expert, says that it was nothing more than a firecracker and it would have gone off and it wouldn't have done any damage. But it was too late to be used for my husband's defense. And I can go on and on about more injustice that the government did to me and my husband about this. But the message I want to drive home is just because this has happened to my family and happened to my husband, you can't be fearful. I've had several people come up and say, well, that really makes me scared. Well, I appreciate you being scared, but I'm here to tell you don't, because that doesn't help Ed, that doesn't help you. We've got to get the truth out. We have to be strong. We have to speak out. Because it's wrong what they are doing. It's wrong what they've done to my family. It's wrong what they've done to Ed. And Ed's not the only one. I know, I mean, some of you people may probably know Matt Hale. He was taken out the same way. There's a guy by the name of David Hingston who's sentenced to 43 years. Murder for hire. That's how they pull it off. It's murder for hire. There's really no victim because nobody died. And then among that, most of these people that they are taking out, it's always that, oh, well, he's really, you know, this horrendous criminal because he had 12 people that he wanted to die. Oh yeah, my husband wanted 12. I wasn't the only one. My mom wasn't the only one. There was 12 other people. Well, there were no 12 other people. I know that. I mean, they were even coming up with names of people that Ed never even had one argument with. I'm going, excuse me? You know, so keep your message going. Don't be afraid, because it's going to allow it to happen more and more if we don't gather and show other people the atrocities that are happening. You know, I don't know if I don't know if we can win Ed's freedom. And if we don't, I go through life without my husband because he's 67 years old. His health has not been good. But I'm going to keep, fighting, and I do still have hope. We right now have a motion for summary reversal with the Ninth Circuit Court, and if they ever get off of their free paid vacation in Hawaii for 2 weeks, maybe we'll get the decision. And if they come back and they grant it, Ed will get his new trial without me having to pay thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars more for the appeal process. I'll just have to pay for a new trial. And I know this time we're going to have that will give us the shot to bring him home, but first we have to get them to grant him the new trial. If they deny it, then we go to the appeal process, and it's going to, it can be up to 2 years, I've been told, and that's very conservative. I've had people ask me what they can do. I've been asking for donations, but at the same time, we're all struggling, and I never want anybody to dig in their pocket such that they harm themselves. I don't want that, because we are all struggling. But speaking up, talking about my husband's case and my situation, and pointing out what the government is doing, that helps. I'm going to talk about the attorney-client privilege that was violated. We made a bold move. We did a writ of mandamus and prohibition to the Supreme Court, asking them to rule and hope to get Ed some justice that way. And I sent out to the list that we have, I sent out to the supporters, asking them to write letters to all the U.S. Supreme Court. Dave Gahary, who was here earlier, interviewed me. He tried to help get the word out. And, it wasn't that I didn't get response and people writing letters, but the problem was I didn't get enough people to write letters. Would it have made a difference? I really don't know. And the point of getting people to write letters was to show the Supreme Court that he had the support. And, there's so much going on, and everybody's working on this cause and that cause, and, it's what it is. But when you see an injustice and you have an opportunity to put in your 2 cents, please do, because it might help a family like mine. It might help somebody else's family to avoid further injustice. And, the Supreme Court, I don't have the confidence in them to rule. It was a long shot, but we've got to keep trying. Because they're just going to continue to get away with it and continue to do make even worse decisions if we don't start speaking up.
It's a travesty.
Yeah, and that is the main thing, is for whatever you find there's injustice, be willing to speak up. Don't be scared. That's why I'm here. I am here because I'm not afraid. So, for a lot of the other things mentioned, it's free-Edgar Steele. We're putting up a lot there. We're putting together a video which really details everything that goes on. And what I want to ask you to do is not so much to see the injustice that has happened to Ed, but so you can learn what goes down, so that you can be aware of it. FBI agents show up and they're talking to you. Question everything that they are telling you. If it's the truth, then it's the truth, but question it and make sure that it is the truth. And, There are things that I wish I would have done in the beginning. You know, they had me in such a state. They pressured me. You know, they got my husband on tampering. They say he tampered with me. You know, and they've also lied about me. They said I have Stockholm Syndrome. I'm in denial. I mean, they have thrown every epithet at me also, because they had to discredit me because I was not a cooperating victim. So, did I do everything right in the beginning? Probably not. And there's some things I wish I could have gone back and done different. But I can't, and I've got to move forward, and I will keep standing up for my husband and our family and everybody else's family that might be in danger. And, you know, hopefully I'll get him home, and hopefully it will not happen to anybody else, because I don't wish this on anybody. Thank you for hearing me out.
A lot of courage. Fight the good fight.
Man, freeedgarsteele.com, guys. There's a lot of things. Listen, think about it. Think about what happens. How devastating it is. They come, they take. I mean, first of all, they kick your door, and then they rampage through your whole freaking house. And they take somebody that you love, and they put them somewhere, and they don't even let you see them. And if they do, it's restricted. And it's terrifying, and it's horrible. And it puts the people at home. You think it's bad for the guy who's sitting in jail. Think about his wife and his kids and his family are sitting at home. They're missing him. They're hearing all these different stories and allegations. We got the next band coming up here right now. You guys can come on up. There is something you can do. Free Edgar Steele. Hey, you know, and she said, well, I don't know if I had enough letters. And I don't know if it would work. Hell yeah, 10,000, 100,000, 200,000, 500,000 freaking letters, petitions, people holding signs. We can do stuff if we can just get together.
Yeah.